Formula One returns to the familiar setting of the Bahrain International Circuit for the fourth round of the 2025 season. And if you haven't heard about it just yet, let me tell you, it's very, very hot. We come to Sakhir fresh from a Max Verstappen masterclass, here to find out if McLaren, or indeed anyone else, have an answer. Welcome to weekend warm-up at the Bahrain Grand Prix. Hello and welcome to one of the prettiest paddocks you are likely to see all year round. I'm Laura Winter alongside me, and we give a warm welcome back to F1 TV for 2025. It's Davide Valsecchi. Davide, welcome along.
Ciao Laura. Hi Lawrence. Happy to be here. Great place. I love the circuit. I love the weather, also very warm during the day. And, it's been a pleasure, and I look forward for the race. Usually we have a lot of action, a lot of overtakes in this type of track, so I look forward to enjoying it.
It's brilliant to have you back, Davide. And Lawrence, welcome back to you. You had Japan off, missed a little bit of action there in terms of the news coming into that weekend. How are you doing?
I missed the story of the year so far, so that was pretty depressing. But yeah, lovely weekend off and nice to be back. And I always love being back with this man. I haven't laughed as hard as I have all year, so it's good to have you back on the team, mate.
It's been a really good Thursday, it has. And this, as you say, Davide, is a fantastic circuit. And one in which, look, we came to in testing just a matter of, I guess, 6 weeks ago or so. It was 20 degrees colder than it is right now. We have seen temperatures up to 40 degrees today. And Davide, this is a circuit you've actually won at a number of times in your GP2 F2 days.
Yeah.
How difficult is it to get a result around here?
It's difficult because you have always to keep in mind the degradation of tires. The race is so long. It's so difficult also the effort that you have to make on the physical side to get to the finish. But we need to remember that they won in GP2, so lower category, easier with drivers. But I remember that they won race 1 and race 2, so it was complicated because I have to come back from 8th in the second race, and I got lucky to take the victory. Anyway,
no, it still counts.
I'm okay here.
They all count. They all count.
Lawrence, the tarmac here older than Kimi Antonelli and Ollie Behrman.
How is
Incredible
possible? How is
stat.
possible?
So many journalists mentioned that to them today, and each of them loved it.
I
Like
can
Kimi
imagine.
especially absolutely loved it, because yeah, that's incredible how old it is, how young they are, frankly, I think. But yeah, no, tarmac's been here, but that should be good for racing, I think, because we obviously saw the resurfacing last time out in Japan. No need to stop for tyres really. Here, they are going to have to stop. So that, for me, means better racing this weekend.
Yeah, a highly abrasive surface already, hotter temperatures. We're going to see some tyre degradation here. It's almost nailed on to be a two-stop. I think you'd be a miracle worker if you make a one-stop work around Bahrain. Davide, you may have won here in F2 machinery, but you were actually out there today, weren't you, in a golf buggy?
Yeah.
Slightly different, perhaps.
Yeah, we enjoyed it, to be honest. And look at it. Right on the white line.
Tell me that's slow-mo.
That was good.
Don't you need more curb there? No, more curb?
You want to just ride the buggy? No, but anyway. Yeah, we really enjoyed it, to be honest.
Grace, I really hope this is slow-mo when you were
I hope so.
going this.
That was not so powerful,
I think this is slower than I was going in F4, to be honest, when I did my 10 laps around this circuit.
Slower than
Throwing
Laura
that in.
Winter, yeah.
Right, look, obviously teams have got so much data here from the number of days that we spend testing here. Coming into this season, though, Yuki Tsunoda and Liam Lawson do not have the data in these current cars, Lawrence, based on the switch, of course, that we saw in Japan. Liam Lawson now back with VCARB, Yuki Tsunoda back with Red Bull. How will that implicate both drivers and the teams more widely as well?
I mean, they don't have that run-in, yes, but they do have at least a weekend each in the cars that they are driving around here. And I think apart from Barcelona, I think this is the circuit that most F1 drivers on the grid know the best. So I don't think it's going to put them too much on the back foot. If anything, at least they've got all of their nitty-gritty, the niggles out of their system. And here, actually, it gives them a better chance to hit the ground running.
And don't forget as well, this is the middle, this is the meat of the triple header sandwich between Japan, here in Bahrain, and then on to Saudi Arabia, the first triple header of the season. You can see the calendar up there, and the races highlighted in red, of course, are sprint races. So a really busy time of the season for drivers, teams, everybody. Before we dive into what will be happening over the course of this weekend here in Bahrain, let's take a look back at all that happened in Japan.
This is the Japanese Grand Prix. There's something about Suzuka. What a spectacle. We're racing to turn number 1. The first three as they were. Gasly and Alonso getting their elbows out.
Lovely pass at their hairpin. Box too flat. Confident. The leaders both pit.
This is crucial. It's close on the exit. It's side by side. Nearly coming together.
He drove himself into the grass.
Hadjar closing in.
Again, that's the pace to get back.
Whoa, that was close.
I don't think McLaren will swap the positions. None of the strategies made any sense to me.
The first man to win 4 in a row around Suzuka circuit. Max Verstappen wins the Japanese Grand Prix.
Wow, thank you guys.
Driving brilliance.
Perfection was the call from the pit wall from GP after that one, and you can't really argue with that. Lawrence, your reaction then to what was a flawless Max Verstappen performance on Sunday, but most importantly, that lap in qualifying, which ensured he was in pole position to do so.
It's not very often that we see Max Verstappen get excited about something out on track. He doesn't really like to praise himself, to say how good something is. He never says he wants to be close to perfection. But when he got out of the car after that qualifying lap, just that immediate team radio, I think it showed how close to perfection it was. And I don't think you'd find anyone in this paddock who didn't think that that lap was frankly sensational, and obviously set up the Grand Prix win on Sunday on such a narrow track at Suzuka. So I think what he did then was perhaps the greatest qualifying lap of his career. He probably wouldn't quite say that, but it was right up there for me.
And he's improved in qualify. I don't remember that he was so good in qualify session when he was younger. I mean, did you remember at the beginning Verstappen when he was by side Daniel Ricciardo? Ricciardo was always a bit quicker than him in qualify, and then he was masterclass and was impressive already in the race. But it's a quality that improved during his career, and is still improving, and now he becomes a great champion, one of the best in the history of Formula One. Already had 4 titles, and is there with the stars. So well done to him.
Isn't it frightening that he's still improving?
Yeah.
He's 4-time world champion. He was so good last year, and there are still things that he can kind of polish and make even better. And I still feel like the sky's the limit with him.
Yeah, for sure. And that qualifying was so important in Japan. It turned out, obviously, that overtaking in the race proved even more difficult. The low tyre deg meant that strategy couldn't really prize much open either. Qualifying here, Davide, as you pointed out earlier, probably the least important, as George Russell said to me, of the whole season, because you can overtake.
Yeah.
What are the opportunities out there? For
sure is much less important. You can overtake, you have the main straight with the DRS, important because the straight is long, 1100 meters, so it's a very long one. And then you have immediately the second DRS zone going into the approach of turn 4, and then you have the DRS here in the other straight. So easy to overtake in this track, but we need to remember that in the modern Formula One, the position just after the first lap, from my point of view, it's incredibly important to determine the result. I'm not saying for Verstappen is going to be critical, but for a couple like Piastri and Norris, for sure, after the first lap will be incredibly important. Who is leading the team at that moment?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so Red Bull, obviously, I think this will be a real test for all teams of where they stand in the pecking order here. And it's still slightly unclear after 3 very different racetracks. We come now to Bahrain. Of course, we have so much data here. This will perhaps paint a clearer picture. The flexi-wing clampdown that's coming in Spain, Red Bull seemingly are quite looking forward to that. That's potentially ominous for those around them if they do make a jump in performance after that one. And of course, we think about Yuki Tsunoda as well. After a reset following that crazy Japanese Grand Prix weekend for him, he'll be getting lots more learning in the car for Red Bull. Okay, McLaren then, very much the ones to beat, I think it's fair to say, here in Bahrain. Earlier on, Oscar Piastri was asked how this track will suit their car.
It will be a good test for us. I think, on paper, the layout is still, this car is not a completely different beast to what we've had the last couple of years. So there are, still parts of this layout that, if you were to draw a perfect layout for our car, it still probably wouldn't look like this. But I think we're as confident as we have been in my time at the team that we are, in a position to win this weekend. I think we have the quickest car at the moment, but it's, our advantage is not enough to be careless and kind of, lay back and not execute as best as you can.
Oscar, Lando said a couple of races ago that it's a very difficult car to drive. Do you echo his thoughts?
It has its moments, yes. I think it's not a completely different car to what we had last season. I think there's a lot of ideas and philosophies that are the same. But yes, it's been tricky to get all of the lap time out of it in every session, and I think we've seen that. But I'm still, if I had to pick out of all 10 cars on the grid right now, I'd still pretty happily be choosing ours.
That says a lot, doesn't it? And quite a mad stat, and one you almost have to think twice about. McLaren have never won here in Bahrain. Of course, they class it as a second home race due to the support, of course, of Bahrain for the team. Lawrence, it's a funny one when you think about it, but they typically have started more slowly in recent years, and it's often been the opener. Here, round 4, and McLaren come in with so much momentum. How much do you think this weekend will suit them?
I think they will suit them a lot. I think the warmer conditions will suit them. I think the one thing that we have seen that McLaren are really strong at is the way they manage the tyres, tyre management. And in these conditions, that's going to be crucial. I think you've seen Oscar there kind of played it down a little bit. Lando Norris was saying, actually, Red Bull are the favourites here in the TV pen earlier. They're trying to play things down. And I think that's because, like you said, they've never won here. They don't want to kind of count their chickens too early. I'm not sure, though, whether or not they're going to have it all their own way. Andrea Stella was talking about milliseconds, rather, of what the gaps are at the moment. And that means you've got to get everything right, the whole package, the strategy, the way you deal with your drivers, with Lando, with Oscar, and how you're going to manage that. Red Bull don't have that problem because they've just got Max to focus on. So actually, I don't even think it's about the car speed here. I think it's about how McLaren go about managing both their drivers and managing their weekend. That will be the difference of whether they finally end that record.
And Davide, the wind here is blowing through the paddock. Do you think that car is one that typically is sensitive to the wind?
Yeah.
It's often an issue here for cars, isn't it?
I think it's not going to be so easy for them. It's incredibly windy. Tomorrow the first free practice is under very warm condition, and probably in the evening is going to be this kind of temperature, so much lower. It's not going to be easy, also because we have Russell that is in a fantastic form. We have Verstappen that we know that in qualify this year he can extract every sense of his car. It's not going to be easy, also because we have Piastri that is improving race by race. I remember the start of last year, he ended up the race very far in Japan from his teammate. Last week he was pushing Norris to try to catch Verstappen. So it's going to be a good battle between them, and I think we are going to enjoy it, because when there is a fight inside the same team between teammates, usually it's very funny to watch.
And he wanted the swap, didn't he? We'll never know what might have happened if he'd got it, as Lando Norris just walks behind us into his hospitality and jumps up the steps there. Of course, the news from McLaren this morning was that they are entering the World Endurance Championship once again. Zak Brown claiming we are back, and they will be entering the hypercar class from 2027 onwards. We will have Zak Brown as well on our pre-qualifying show too, so do make sure you tune into that one. F1 Fantasy then, Lawrence. We're embroiled in a bitter battle. He's been runner-up for 2 years. I obviously was the victor last year. Davide, are you entered into the league, Davide?
Obviously, yeah, but I'm not as good as you.
Not as competitive. Well, we both ran McLaren, didn't we? We'll see what we go for this week. Any tips for anybody?
I've already made my changes.
You've made
in a shocking
your team?
turn of events before practice. I've made my changes. Yeah.
Confident.
Because
Very
that's how confident I feel about it.
Very confident. I like it, Lawrence. I like it. You're bringing the fight. Okay, let's hear from Kimi Antonelli.
In the first, especially couple of races, I really struggled with warm-up when it was coming to qualifying. And I think Suzuka was a big step forward on that side. So obviously, massive learning. And but so far, I'm happy with how he's going. Of course, George is driving really well, and it's really helping me to develop and push myself even further. But I'm happy because I'm getting there slowly. I think the speed is there, but it's more about being able to put all the dots together, starting from the warm-up and then the lap itself. But yeah, keep the positive trend, and then obviously keep working hard, and then we'll see what the result's going to be on Sunday. I'm really looking forward to this weekend because obviously it's a track that I know, and obviously condition will be much different compared to what we had in testing because it's going to be much hotter. But I'm looking forward to see what we can do during the weekend.
I think we all are, Kimi, and what an impressive start he's had so far. But George Russell earlier saying to me that this is very much a track in which they can find a bit of validation. If they are as close to McLaren as they hope they will be, it could well mean that they're going to have a very good season. They went well in testing here. It's obviously now 20 degrees hotter. Typically, Mercedes went very well in the cooler conditions last year. So again, this is a big test weekend, I think, for all teams. Davide, I have to come to you, though, on Kimi Antonelli. On his performance so far, that brilliant drive in unbelievably difficult conditions in the wet in Melbourne, and then the way he took to and built his confidence in Suzuka. How has the reaction been back home in Italy to what Kimi's doing?
It's incredibly positive because he's there in the championship, he's fifth, a lot of points. He's been calm during the beginning of the season where the conditions were difficult. He's not there in the qualifying lap time, but he's always there at the end of the race. At the first race, he was catching Russell. The last one in Japan, he was coming back so strongly with a different strategy. I mean, it's a huge talent. And well done to Toto Wolff to risk with him so much, bringing him into the Mercedes Formula One team so young. Okay. Well done for the choice, well done for the driver, because he's improving race by race. So looking forward to see the young kids here because they can surprise everyone. They know the track very well from the lower category. They did the winter test. It's a huge help for these young drivers. So we'll see. Put Antonelli in your fantasy league, believe me.
But hang on, I think you've got to give his teammate George a chance. I think the way that he's delivered so far this year, P4 in the championship, podium in the first two races, best start to the career that he's ever had. And I think he's really stepped up into that team leader role. Lewis Hamilton has left. He really kind of needs to assert his authority because, Davide, if Kimi is the next big thing, as it might look like it is, and say Max Verstappen is available in the future, there's going to be a real fight, I think, to hold on to your seats in Mercedes. So I think George has really taken on this challenge in a really great way. You're talking to the members of the team, they say he's acting like a leader, the way he's carrying himself this year. But most importantly, he's delivering on track. So I think if he can continue that momentum, I think we've got to consider him as a contender for race wins.
In the fight for the championship, I need some help from the track.
He'll need some help from Lando and Oscar, maybe, and Max. Yeah, exactly. But I think he's in the mix, and that's what's exciting.
As a driver, I consider him ready to fight for the championship. Then you need also the speed of the car, and that is not easy to have, to be honest.
Yeah, and look, 4 different winners so far, if you count the sprint race as well, which was won, of course, by Lewis Hamilton of Ferrari. Davide, they're 4th in the constructors' standings. Of course, they lost that 18 points in China with the double DQ. What do you make of Ferrari? What can they bring here? How important is this race to get right?
They have the new floor that they are going to test tomorrow with Lewis Hamilton because he's not running the first free practice Leclerc, so they are going to test with Hamilton. And to be honest, they need something different. Seems that on the technical side they are a bit confused. Hamilton sometimes is competitive, then they make some setup changes and it doesn't work for the race. I mean, they need to step up and having a quicker car to let the driver have the chance to fight on the top position. We saw Hamilton in China. As soon as they gave him a little chance, boom, the victory in the sprint race. I mean, we needed to put the driver in the condition to fight for the important position. Seems that the car is not there yet.
We'll see where Ferrari are here, but of course they have struggled with either running too low, skid plank wear, or running too high and simply not quick enough. So ride height is an issue at Ferrari. Okay, though, moving on to Williams, who have scored points with Alex Albon. Let's hear from him.
Alex, great to see you. Best start to the season ever for you in Formula 1, 3 points finishes in a row.
Thank you.
It looks like you're getting the most out of the car. Is there a little bit part of you that's a bit surprised just how good this car is straight out of the box?
I wouldn't say surprised. I think that the amount of pace that we found over winter to what it was in the sim and to what we're actually getting is mostly more than we imagined it to be. So in that sense, yes. But in terms of a feeling with the car, it feels good. I'm not gonna lie. I think from the moment we tried it in Silverstone during Shakedown Day to now, it feels more intuitive. It gives you more confidence in the corners, more predictable, which is also helping just to extract the last little bit in qualifying as well. Just having a car that you can trust and you know what it's going to do.
Having that kind of confidence in the car coming here to a track you obviously tested out earlier this year. I know it's much hotter, but given you've performed at the last 3 different circuits, can you expect that it can only be much more the same here?
Yes, I don't think we're going to be slow here, and I think that we were strong. Carlos was especially strong in the test here earlier this year, and now we've gone to 4 different tracks, very different tracks. The car's been top 10 material each time, so I'm going into this weekend. Maybe I think it's going to be tighter just because everyone is going to be fairly optimized for this weekend, but coming in with the goal of scoring points.
Great stuff. Best of luck. Thank you.
Great stuff. I always love hearing an Alex Albon interview. You glean so much from what he's saying, and he had a pretty, I guess, feisty race radio. It's a funny one because actually if you speak to the team, it's, that's quite an ordinary thing to hear on a radio when you're in the heat of the moment and you're perhaps a bit frustrated with how things are going. But it was a rather uneventful race, which meant that we all heard that race radio. Davide, what did you make of that radio, but also Williams' form and certainly on Alex Albon's side of the garage as well, the way he's levelling up?
Seems that he was a bit under pressure because he was fighting in the points, because he's incredible quick, because he want to score points and deliver a great result, and something was wrong with the car and he was complaining. But let me say, how he's performing this year, constantly on the top level as a driver. I really appreciate what he's doing, Albon, also because the reference this year is not a young kid, he's not Latifi, he has not a great history in Formula One. It's Carlos Sainz, one of the top drivers of the past season. He was a winner last year, so I mean, he's a good reference and he's doing very, very well. Albon is another driver that maybe we are underrated him a bit, Yeah, we need to consider top 5 drivers.
But I think the fact that he has really stepped on since Carlos has been on the other side of the garage is a massive thing. And look, Carlos is no slouch. I know he hasn't scored points yet. I know he had a pretty awful weekend in Japan, all thanks. He got fined for being 5 seconds late to the national anthem. He obviously had the grid penalty as well. He might potentially get fined again for what he said at the press conference today for swearing. It's been difficult, but I do think there were glimpses, and we'll hear a little bit more from him later in the weekend because I sat down with him earlier. There were glimpses of he's found some solutions to trying to get the best out of this car. And I think what maybe gets overlooked sometimes is a driver goes to a different team, and you'll know about this, Davide, and the team will do things differently to what the last team did, and you won't know that they do that until the moment in which you need to learn about it. So there are going to be all of those things that he needs to learn, and the fact that he's already 3 races in and starting to get a feel for it, and was so strong here in testing, I think, early doors, I think that bodes well that maybe this is the weekend to turn things around.
We've got a number of young drivers, rookies, in for FP1, which means Carlos Sainz won't be driving. So we get the absolute pleasure and joy of having him on our pre-FP1 show. I'm really looking forward to that and having him along to look ahead to the weekend and give us a bit more information, like you say, Lawrence, about exactly where he's at. Aston Martin, another Spaniard in at that team, Fernando Alonso. It's his 50th race with the team. And of course, 49 races ago, or 50, I can't do the maths anyway. His first race with the team was here and he got a podium. They seem a way off that right now, but of course, balancing that development between 2025 and the Adrian Newey era of 2026. They have scored points, though, through Lance Stroll already this season. We look to Alpine, who have not. Where are Alpine at the moment? Pierre Gasly, when I spoke to him early, really desperate for those points and feels this track could be where they do it.
Very strange situation, because if we remember the Alpine of the 2024, that in the last part of the season they were astonishing. I mean, with Pierre Gasly, they were scoring points race after race. It's difficult to understand why they are so behind and so slow now, and it's a bit disappointing. Also, they have the young driver beside Gasly, and that doesn't help to develop the car for sure. But they are losing performance, and No, they need to recover it immediately to try to fight for the top position, because the difference from where they are to the points is not so small. I mean, they have to do a huge step, 3 or 4 tenths, to be in the battle. That is my thing.
So I think this is part of their problem, is the field is compressed so much that actually they're kind of just missing only a tiny bit to get into the points. We can't forget the engine deficit that they've got. And in Japan, that will have cost them tenths of a second around that track. It won't be so painful here. But look, if they're losing tenths of a second at every single track for no fault of their own, because obviously the current regulations are frozen on performance from an engine perspective, there's only so much you can do, and you can't go finding tenths of a second from aero developments. Like, you listen, I only have to talk to Fred Vasseur to tell you can't go finding tenths of a second from it. It's lots of little details. So I think they're just on the wrong side of it, and it's just unfortunate that the field is so compressed in the midfield.
Mercedes have just turned their music up. Loving that, a little bit of late night work in the Mercedes garage. You're right, yes. So with the Liam and Yuki swap, not the only switch of teams and drivers we saw last time out. We interviewed Ryo Hirakawa as an Alpine driver after an FP1 outing. You interviewed him, Lawrence, earlier on.
As a Haas driver.
As a Haas driver. Let's hear from him.
Rio, great to see you. Obviously, it's been quite a busy couple of weeks for you, swapping from Alpine over to Haas. How are you feeling about that transition and the opportunity ahead?
Yeah, I'm really happy for this opportunity. It's just nice to drive F1 two weeks in a row, and I'm really excited to start my new journey with the Haas. At the same time, I really appreciate to the Alpine to giving me this opportunity. So yeah, I just focus my job now.
You've got 4 opportunities this year, Bahrain being the first one to drive the car in FP1. How important is that for you in your career development to hopefully, I guess, getting a seat on the grid?
I think I did a good job in Suzuka, so I'm having this good momentum here. So yeah, my job is to bring as much as I can from my feedback, everything. So yeah, I just try to focus to contribute to the team.
Great stuff. Best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's funny seeing him suddenly in very different uniform. Ryo Hirakawa there with Haas for the foreseeable future. The teams are required to run 2 rookies, in 2 FP1 sessions per car. So 4 in total. That's doubling the total number. So our FP1 drivers are Ivasa replacing Verstappen. We have Dino Beganovic replacing Leclerc. Fred Vesti in for Russell. Felipe Drugovich in for Alonso. Luke Browning replacing Carlos Sainz. And Ryo Hirakawa replacing Ollie Behrman, who you can see on your screens now. I'm not sure where he is in the paddock. It's going to be interesting to see those drivers out there, and I think a difficult one, Davide, for them to balance their own personal ambition of being out in a car, but also getting the team plan done, keeping that car nice and safe.
I think it's one of the most difficult things to do, because we have to remember in Monza, Kimi Antonelli drove the first section, and after 3 laps he destroyed the car in the entrance of the Parabolica, last corner. Did you remember? And so probably, and now we can see how good Antonelli is. So probably it's very difficult to try to hold yourself, to stay calm, to just do your little job to help the team, and to don't try to overperformance or to try to show your best, because you don't need this kind of job during the race weekend.
And Haas as well, they obviously had that issue on Ocon's side of the garage and him just not feeling completely comfortable in the car. Ollie Behrman scoring points last time out. Racing Bulls, though, meanwhile, very comfortable, certainly on Isaac Hadjar's side of the garage. How can they build on that here, Lawrence?
Well, they're living their best life, basically, aren't they? I mean, the very fact that people are saying that their car is better than a Red Bull, a works team Red Bull, it shows how far they've come, I think. And actually, traditionally, that team doesn't start a season very strongly. So I think where they are now is very encouraging. Isaac Hadjar, 3 races in, I mean, the confidence in that kid is incredible. And if you've really forgotten, or I've forgotten, that Helmut Marko called him embarrassing, you know, the way that he reacted to what happened at Australia. And he's just put that to his back of the mind. And Red Bull are raving about him, and he's raving about him. So I'm excited to see what he can deliver this weekend. And I think that will give Liam Lawson a lot of confidence, because he'll know that he knows the team really well. He kind of dialed himself into last weekend in Japan. Very difficult to overtake. If he can have a good weekend here, he might just have that momentum and build on that momentum that Isaac Hadjar's got at the minute.
So further down that end of the paddock as well, we obviously have Sauber. They have picked up points this season. Alpine, the only team yet to do so. Jonathan Wheatley in as team principal. So I'm walking along resplendent in that very bright green. Nico Hülkenberg, Davide, saying the team have made some progress since testing. It's slow but steady. We're seeing there are some moves being made in that team.
Yeah, they were very good, and Hülkenberg was very good in Australia in wet condition. He took 6 points during that race. It was a masterclass driving with a lot of experience. He could extract everything from that car. To be honest, in dry condition, they are not there fighting for points, but can be a good chance here. They had the test. They can use also Bortoleto, that has a lot of experience here. He won in 2 different categories here in this track, so I think it can be positive this weekend. They need to show some performance on dry condition in qualifiers. Try to stay around the 10th position in the points, and we will see. We will see if they are good enough to do it.
We will see. I think we're going to get a few more answers here this weekend than we've had so far. Quickly on Haas then, on Esteban Ocon side of the garage, how much progress do you think they've made with that new floor, with how that is running, with eliminating some of the bouncing on his side of the garage?
So I think on Behrman's side, I think they made a ton of progress with it. I think the way that they learned about it and they got a lot of data from it. I think Ocon's side, there's a lot of head scratching. I think it's a really critical moment for Esteban this weekend, because a lot of times last year, particularly towards the end of the last year, he was lost. Didn't quite understand why the car wasn't performing at the same level as Pierre. He doesn't want to go back to that kind of position. So if he can be strong again here, it might just be that Japan was a bit of a blip and he couldn't quite get on top. If it's his second successive weekend, it could be tough.
Yeah, you forget though, China, P5, brilliant stuff.
And he had that amazing overtake on Antonelli with the 2 wheels on the grass. I mean, we have to realize that in Formula One the stuff is going to change so quickly, race by race. Hamilton in China was impressive, and then it was a bit down in Japan. Maybe here he come back stronger, fighting for the top. So it's really quick, the solution and the troubles in Formula One.
Of course, we're seeing plenty of driver movement already this season, just within the teams we have on the grid. We have an 11th team coming into Formula One next season with Cadillac. 2 more seats, therefore. Do you have some news for us? What are you hearing?
Well, I finally got hold of Sergio Perez to get a feeling of whether or not he wants to come back to Formula One. So when he left, he really didn't have that kind of desire at the minute. He wanted to go spend time with his family. He's now spent 3 or 4 months, and he's effectively decided he does want to come back if the project is right. And Cadillac are top of the list. It kind of, from what I understand, he would be a driver of the kind of experience that they would want. And I think that's what they want, definitely in one of the seats. And then the other seat, there's a real fight, I think, between Bottas, Joe, Colton Herta, and there were 3 or 4 other drivers who have been on the phone to Cadillac. So I think it's really exciting that we're going to see some new drivers coming in. But I think it's significant that Checo wants to come back, because I wasn't sure what he wanted to do. I don't think he knew what he wanted to do at the end of last year. So for him to have made that decision is significant.
Consider how difficult it is to be by side Max Verstappen this year. Probably also deserve to come back, Perez. I mean, for sure last year he suffered the situation, but the teammates of Max Verstappen this year, they have a tougher season so far. So
yeah, given what we've seen so far, we perhaps appraise those performances slightly differently now. And Sergio Perez, top of the list for Cadillac, it seems. We will hopefully bring you all that news as it breaks through this season. For now, though, let's take a look at how the Bahrain Grand Prix weekend is shaping up. So Friday then, we have 2 free practice sessions to bring you. 2:15 for FP1, building up to that one, and then 5:45 for FP2. We head to Saturday, 3:15 for FP3. Your pre-qualifying show is coming at 6:30 p.m, a 7 p.m. start for qualifying, post-qualifying show immediately afterwards, and then we move to race day, 5 p.m. for your pre-race show and a 6 p.m. start for the Bahrain Grand Prix. And don't forget to join us once again for the post-race show. Okay, there we go. The weekend is well and truly warmed. It didn't really need much warming after the searing heat that we have had today, and it's due to stay through the weekend as well. With all of that in mind, all that we've discussed, your predictions, please. I don't know who would like to go first.
I'll take it. I think it's going to be a McLaren 1-2. I know Lando was playing it down, but I think it's going to be between them. Probably Lando's going to edge it, I think, over Oscar. And then I think it's a Max Verstappen podium, tight battle with George Russell. Tight battle.
Great stuff.
Yeah, I would like to see something different, like Mercedes trying to achieve something important. Is the only top team that is missing for winning something. So let's say that George and Antonelli on the podium for the weekend. We'll see.
So who's your winner? You're saying a George Russell win?
Probably Russell and Antonelli third. That would be my dream for the weekend.
Wow.
Wow.
And maybe Tsunoda top 5. Yeah, we need the second driver in Red Bull to score some points.
I think he's going to score. I do think Tsunoda's going to score. He's good around here.
Tsunoda in the points would be a real boost for his confidence. I do agree, though, with you, Lawrence. I think we're going to see a McLaren 1-2 on a track they have never won at before. But don't forget to join us all weekend, and you'll probably see that we look a little bit silly with our predictions, as ever. That's the fun of them. Thank you very much to Lawrence Barretto. Thank you to Davide Valsecchi, and to all of you for watching. Join us here at the Bahrain Grand Prix all weekend. Bye for now.